Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Making Sense. With me today, I have Don Nummi, and Don is our Chief Information Officer and Enterprise Risk Management Director.
That's really good, Hannah.
That is really good.
I can't even get it right half the time.
That is good. Thank
very
you.
Cool.
Again, I'm Hannah Willis, and I'm the Marketing Director here at NBC, and today we're going to talk about security. So, it's obviously a really hot topic now, I think almost more than ever. And you hear a lot of stuff in the news about people getting scammed. And I would say most people probably know somebody who has fallen for some sort of phishing email or scam. So I want to talk to you today about how we can provide some education to our customers, to our non-customers, about how to keep your identity safe and then also your money safe too. So clearly the best way to prevent any sort of attack is to not fall for it in the first place. So like when it comes to emails or phone calls, like what's the best way to be able to spot like a scam or something like that?
Well, we like to look for what we call red flags. And I think I would start out with the fact, don't assume that who the sender is actually who they are. Scammers are very sophisticated. They'll take on identities that you're not really used to. They may portray themselves as a family member, a coworker, a senior level executive. We see a lot of things in the banking industry. You can find information on management on the internet, and then they purport to be like the CEO of the company. So be very skeptical. Just because somebody asks you a question doesn't mean you have to answer it. In the early days of banking, we had to really worry about protecting money. Now it's come even further. Not only do we protect money, but we want to protect the customer's information. And in doing so, we need the help of the customer themselves to be a little skeptical, even if it purports to be coming from the bank.
Yep. So what would we not ask a customer? Like what would the bank not do? So if like somebody gets a phone call and it's they're saying it's NBC, like what would we not ask somebody?
We've actually had examples of people purporting to be from NBC.
Yep.
One of the key indicators is caller ID. I don't know if everybody knows this, but you can spoof that message. Spoofing meaning making it look like it's from the bank when it really isn't.
Okay.
So when you see NBC on your caller ID, don't assume that it's actually from the bank.
Okay.
We would never call you proactively and ask for that non-published information, birth dates, account numbers, balances, things of that nature. We know not to ask that, and it should be a red flag if you would receive a call purporting to be from the bank and asking for that information.
Okay. So with all of the devices that people have these days, cell phone, email, with phones, there's text messages, there's calls. What do you see as the most common?
We're seeing mostly email.
Okay.
That allows the culprit to be a little more inquisitive, can think out things a little clearer. But there's always, it seems to be red flags, misspellings, purporting to be from a company, but yet the email address is like Gmail or Hotmail or AOL, something like that. Generic greetings like hi, sir, or something. Or typically when they come from foreign countries, the grammar wouldn't be the way we communicate in the United States. Maybe some more formality included, but it doesn't quite make sense. And again, I reiterate, just because someone asks a question of you doesn't mean you have to answer it.
Yeah. I think that that's what would make me nervous on like a phone call one, because an email you can think about it, but a phone call, if somebody asks you that, they're like, oh, I'm from NBC, what's your birthday, what's your account number? Like people might just answer it and then think later like, oh.
Yes, we do see that.
I maybe shouldn't have done that.
And you know what I would suggest, if you're not comfortable, just tell the person, I'm going to call the bank back
Yeah.
and I will initiate the call. Never take a phone number that somebody offers you to call back on, because usually it's not really the bank. So, it's very easy to find any number in the bank, and you could ask for the president. Most presidents would be happy to hear from the customer and direct them to the right direction.
So if you do have an experience like this and you called, would you just call your branch and then just say, hey, I think I might have had something just happen, and they'll connect you with the right person?
Yep. And, when we hear that, we take it seriously. We get the IT department involved many times, and we kind of recreate in our mind what has happened, and then how can we help the customer. A lot of times we'll suggest that they'll need to obtain professional computer services to wipe out their computer because it may be infected, and they may be intercepting legitimate and confidential emails between the bank and the customer.
Okay. So Don, fun fact for everybody, I hope I can say this. Don has 2 very beautiful daughters. So what would, you're sitting down for family dinner, you're going to give them 3 things. Girls, you got to do these 3 things to protect yourself. 3 simple things to protect yourself from scammers, to be more cyber aware. What would you tell them? And this is good too, because they're young, so they're mobile people.
Sometimes they teach me technology. I mean, they've just grown up with it. That's a great question, and I think I can answer that.
Good.
First of all, I would want to say, make sure you have a complex password. So the days of using pound password 1 or your birthday.
Street address.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That is not complex. I mean, mix the cases, use the special characters.
Yeah.
Go out. If it allows 15 characters, use 15 characters.
Okay.
The culprits have programs that can brute force try to guess the password, and if you have an 8-character password, it's going to take a lot less time for them to do versus a 15 character.
Yeah.
So that would be item number 1.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
Should you have different passwords for different programs?
Yeah.
Okay. And then how do you remember these? I need a place to store them.
Okay. So my tip is never write down the actual password, but give yourself a hint. So
Okay.
When I use a certain number, I'll replace it with a character, and I know that when I see that character, like a pound sign, I'll know in my mind I have to put a number 7 in there. Pound always means 7.
Got it.
That way, if somebody actually gets your password list, they aren't going to know what your password is.
Love it.
But getting back to your original question,
Yes.
Item number 2 would be to always update your computer. So there's patches that are delivered by the manufacturer of the computer, the software. You always want to stay up to date on those, because those really are the company saying, we recognize there's a weakness in our device or our software, and this is how we're going to protect you by patching it. So a lot of people don't do that, and they may buy a computer and then just let it sit.
Yeah.
And it never gets updated. You're more susceptible to.
How does somebody with a personal computer do that?
You can go online, or you could actually hire a company.
Okay.
With relatively little cost to educate you, but very important to keep your equipment up to date patch-wise.
Often.
And patches can come out weekly, monthly.
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay. So for your general user, general customer, monthly?
The more the better, and the
Yeah.
more often the better.
Okay. Okay.
And then finally, there's a thing called multi-factor authentication. I don't know. That's kind of a newer thing, not so much for the bank side of things, but for customers, where you know your password, but you have previously given your cell phone number, and a special code will be texted to that trusted cell phone device. And the customer will then put in that number, and it verifies that you are who you say you are.
I think like half of my text messages in my phone are like authentication texts.
Sure.
So,
You can delete those once in a while.
Okay.
They're only
Okay.
good one time. So.
Awesome. That was really great. That's all super relevant and super easy to implement tips. So I appreciate that.
Well, I just think be proactive in all this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, many people learn these tips and traits after they've been compromised. And if you can take anything away from watching this video, and if you haven't been compromised, kind of implement these things. And I have no problem taking customer calls if somebody has a question about this, and if we can help in any way. So
You heard it. You call Don Nummi if you have a question. So thank you, Don, for sitting down with me.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you, viewers, and we will see you next time.